Hey, church, it's good to be with you in another devotional this week. I know that we're all still reeling from what happened in Texas with a school shooting in an elementary school, and of course, the shootings that happened right before that, including the racial hate crime in Buffalo. I want to thank one of our church members, Rolando Talbot, for sending me a really powerful article that is linked in our email today, talking about ways that we can effectively have conversations with the children in our lives. And actually reading through that article and thinking about the steps that it suggests, these are really good steps for all of us as adults too. So for example, the first step is just to kind of take a deep breath and to try to center ourselves, because it's so hard to think and to even move when we're so rooted in kind of the deep darkness of what's happening right now. And so just allowing ourselves to take a deep breath and then to acknowledge our emotions, to not hide them, to not ignore them, but to recognize what's there, to recognize how we're feeling, and to be able to take that step to honestly express those emotions with the people that we love in our lives, and even with people who we're having dialogue with, even if that's conflicting dialogue regarding the steps we need to take to reduce gun violence in our country. And then to be able to express those emotions and then hear people's reaction to them. And then again, acknowledge the emotions we feel when we hear those reactions. And then it continues with several other steps. The last one, of course, is just being able to strategize, to say like, okay, none of us think that a shooting in a school is good. So we've got to be able to strategize about what's next. So I encourage you to take a look at that article. And again, if you have kids in your lives, hopefully that's a helpful resource for you. And even if you don't, I think those are the steps that we need to take as adults as well. And what I want to highlight, and again, this was in my conversation with Rolando, just thinking, he said, we need community more than ever. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. This is a time when we absolutely need the community around us, whether that's in our cities, but especially our churches, to be able to come together, to reflect, to express, to think. This Sunday, we're going to have opportunities to do that. Our opening hymn on Sunday is powerful. It was one written by a great hymn writer of our times right now, specifically about the school shooting in Texas. And so being able to sing those words, to pray prayers together, to reflect on scripture together is going to be, I think, a powerful balm for all of us to be able to turn to God and take those steps in the article to acknowledge our emotions and express them and then strategize as a church community. So we are here for you during this time. We think it's so important to be able to come together, to be rooted in community. Several announcements here that I want to share with you, but one in regards to being rooted in community is that I, along with other clergy members of the Claremont Interfaith Council, are putting together a vigil on Saturday evening. Information is in this email. It's going to be at 5 p.m., hosted at St. Ambrose Episcopal Church, and there's going to be time for reflection and prayer, musical numbers. One of our favorite musical groups, Trio Sol de Amores, the Three Sisters, we invited them to come join us at that vigil. And so that's going to be a time just to be rooted in local community with several different faith groups, to be able to have a vigil. We're calling it a prelude to action because as part of that, the clergy people there are going to be inviting you to respond with letters that you can write, and we are personally going to deliver those to the offices of our local congressional leaders. In addition to the vigil, I also just want to remind you that we are in stewardship season, and that's a really important part of our church year, is that we put together our budget right now leading up to the next fiscal year, and it's I hope you understand. I say this line a lot during stewardship season, but it's just true that our entire budget, everything that we do as a church, is 100% based on the pledges that we get as income for the church. And so if pledges are lower one year, then we reduce our ministry. If pledges are higher, it allows us to dream big about what we can do in the year ahead. And you'll see I put some numbers in today's email. We actually have a long ways to go over these next 9 days until stewardship season is done. And so we're looking, especially for folks who've never pledged before, to consider pledging for the first time. If you did pledge last year, we were really counting on your annual pledge, but there's about, I forget what the number is, but over $200,000, $260,000 still that we need to raise. And so please, by June 5th, if you could make your pledge to the church, to just let us know what we can expect to have as financial resources as a church community in the year ahead. And then on June 5th, we invite you to join us for our annual end of the stewardship season toast, where we'll have opportunities to just have a quick beverage together, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic options, and to be able to toast the year ahead. And so our vigil is coming up, and then it's stewardship season as well.